Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, America's Cup fans. It doesn't feel like we've had a catch-up for a while. I think we had our last catch-up on Thursday evening after the first round of the Louis Vuitton Cup final, where we had a windy and wavy day and the scores were 1-1 between us and Prada. Since then, we had a light air day yesterday where there were 2 races scheduled and we held with a light breeze all day, kind of just flicking below the wind speed limit all day. We eventually got a race off that was a classic light air race, all about staying on the foil, which we did really well with a good lead up until the last upwind. Failed our last tack and the race got abandoned. And it kind of felt a bit to us like a point that got away, but we took the positives from it. And then we rolled in today and we did the flip reverse again and went to the top of the wind limit and spent 2 hours getting delayed because we were over 21 knots. But we did get 2 races in today, and the scores on the board after race day 3 in the Louis Vuitton Cup final is 2-2 between us and Prada. Does that sum up the last few days, chaps, I think, roughly?
Yeah, spot on.
Got Giles and Ian with us here today. Got Ian with us today, our rules expert. And Cam has just told me in my ear that we've got a few questions at the end of the show about penalty stuff. So I hope you've come armed. Giles, windy day again, but much flatter sea state for the 2 races.
Yeah, it's back to those summery conditions that we were seeing in the prelims, with a really strong southwesterly, 0.7 seas, a little bit of current with the wind. Yeah, and super strong garbage, as you said, bouncing off that 21 knot wind limit. And
what were you seeing on the chase boat on the when the Mel kept resetting the race course? Were you seeing like well over the 21 knots?
There was gusts toward, I think the biggest gust I saw was about 25 knots, but only over a very short period. It really was just bouncing just over.
Okay.
So we ended up living in limbo for, well, much like the viewers, for whatever it was, 2 hours.
I think it was a while. I mean, it seems to fly by when you're on the water, but I'm sure if you're in a spectator boat or watching it live on YouTube or wherever you watch it, it maybe drags on a bit. But Ian, there was 2 races today, and the first race we saw from our boat from Britannia, about sort of as the breeze started trending down, Prada started dropping their jib, which is obviously not what you want to do just before you enter the race. So we had our suspicions that they had a problem, and they did, right?
Yeah, they had a load of broken mainsail battens. I didn't see exactly how they did it. I guess some speculation, maybe a jibe, down speed jibe or something, but we don't know.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
There you are. And I think I'm not an AC75 expert, but it's safe to say I don't think you can sail with a sail like that. And so, yeah, unfortunately for them, they didn't make it to the start line, and we were awarded the race.
The point. And Giles, go on, give us your best speculation. I mean, we're not stating fact at all here.
Yeah.
How do you think you'd end up with broken battens in that spot so high up?
As Ian says, I would imagine that they do a really nice job of doing a slow soaking mode on 2 foils.
Yeah.
And with the wind speed up at 21 knots, perhaps they were soaking downwind at 20 knots, 25 knots, and jibed, and maybe just got a lot of apparent and snapped a load of battens. That's how I'd imagine they would have done it, but
who knows?
Speculation.
Indeed,
speculation.
Gangly. And then we had a short break whilst Prada changed their mainsail. Giles, they changed to quite a kind of bigger area of a mainsail. Did it look like to you?
They went to their M1, which is interesting, because I'm sure if they must have only had the M1 on the water as a spare. If they had another sail to go to, the choice would have been to stick with the small M2. But yeah, they put the M1 up. It was an interesting window because we were bouncing off the wind speed limit. We saw they had an issue, and they took the decision to not pull their delay card.
Yes.
Every team gets a 15-minute delay card. I'd imagine
for the whole final.
Yeah,
we
that's
have one.
That's for the whole series. Yeah, and to be honest, it was probably a smart move not to use it, because they would have never been able to get their mainsail swap done.
Yeah.
The only situation that they'd have been able to do it was to pull the card, stop the race that we ended up being awarded, and then banking on hoping that we wouldn't be able to race because of the wind speed limit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which might have actually worked completely in hindsight, but you don't know.
But you don't know, touching wood, and I touch wood for both of us. You don't know what failures that we might have down the road.
Yeah,
You want to
and-
hold on to that card.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want to. You want to win races by winning races.
Yes, absolutely.
We never want to see
No, you
teams
don't.
losing races like that.
No, but
It's all part of the game.
We didn't win that race, but we collected a point.
Absolutely.
And we went 2-1 up. And then we had the wind speed stay below the wind speed limit. And then we had, for me, probably one of the best races. Well, I think actually one of the best races I've seen in an AC 75.
It's the race of the Cup so far, I think.
Yeah.
For
Do you
sure.
agree with that, Ian? Race of the
Well,
Cup so
I
far?
prefer the ones we win, but
Yes,
but no,
all right, yeah.
you're absolutely right. It was a stonking race for
Yeah.
the neutral.
For the
Yeah,
neutral,
for the
it was a
neutral,
stonking
indeed, yeah.
race. It was absolutely unbelievable to watch these two world-class sailing teams just throwing everything at each other. There's plenty of talking points that we're going to go through, but the best place to start is the start. We were starboard entry, Luna Rossa were port entry, and it was about 20 knots of wind speed on entry. And Louis, if you roll the VT, we'll get chatting about it.
Yeah, they were a little late for the start, and I guess they're 2 boards down there. We are as well, but we're a bit faster than quite a lot faster than them, and we get into the old school
Yeah.
dial, or what ended up as a dial down, which
Yeah.
is I guess it's pretty exciting if you're on board at this point going
Yeah.
into a dial down.
I tell you what, it'd be more exciting if they decided to dial up as well, but that wasn't to be. But in here, it then rolled about a minute later into this incident on boundary, a port starboard incident on boundary where we protested and felt like Prada had infringed us.
Wow.
And
Well, port starboard,
Sorry.
or was it windward
Yeah,
leeward?
windward
That's it.
leeward.
That's
the question, isn't
yeah.
it? They're trying to jibe onto starboard,
Correct.
in front of us essentially, and we're saying, well, no, you're windward boat, you've got to keep clear.
yeah,
In my view, we have to alter while they're still the keep clear boat, and it should have been a penalty on them. But what's interesting is the umpires do get a different perspective from what we see on the live images.
Yeah.
In particularly the timing of when they're on starboard and they have rights, because their mainsail flicks over quite a long time after they're on starboard tack.
right.
And if you look, I'm sure we'll see it again.
Yeah.
The Virtual Eye version
Yeah.
has them right of way earlier
So
in the piece.
look at the mainsail here on Prada.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so it's flicking now.
Yeah.
A long time after we've kept clear. If you watch it on this one,
The Virtual Eye, it flicks
flicks
earlier.
quite a bit earlier,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
at that point we have a duty to keep clear of them. And up until that point, for quite a short period of time, it was about 3/4 of a second, they had a duty to keep clear of us, and I think we all can all agree we don't feel like they did that.
Yep, I agree with that. But ultimately, the opinion that matters most, and the only opinion that matters, and the umpire is always right, as Ben said in his mixed zone press conference, is that of the umpires, and they said no foul, green flag, play on.
Yeah. So their view is that Luna Rossa got onto starboard before we had to avoid, and at that point we did all we could to avoid, which was fine, and we managed to, and it's all clear.
I must say, I mean, I haven't really helmed these boats, but it'd have been interesting if we'd just held the rudder straight there. Would have been a little bit different, wouldn't it?
You can't.
You can't,
You
Charles,
can't.
no.
You can't.
No,
You know
not doing
Yeah,
these boats
I
are
know.
so fragile.
I know.
And I think the from certainly from our perspective, we're obviously looking at it very one-sided.
Yeah, I'm
we
sure.
felt we were a little bit hard done by on a close umpire call.
Yeah.
But it's 21 knots, and you don't want to get these yachts too close. They're built pretty light on in a lot of areas.
Yeah. So not only from that point in, we were disappointed not to have given Prada a penalty, but it actually made our start trickier as well, right? We had to do a crash jibe inside, kind of didn't wind up as well as we thought, and actually gave Prada a little bit of an edge going on to the race course.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason they're forcing that situation, trying to get onto starboard because they're in big trouble otherwise. But that immediately reverses it, and all of a sudden we're in trouble and we're behind.
And that leads us on to the first beat where Prada took the first crosses and we headed out to the right-hand boundary. And if you roll the VT here, Louis, we'll talk about when that Prada landed a tack on us, came down kind of low speeds, 34, and Giles, we kind of tried to nuzzle in underneath them here and asked another question of the umpires.
Yeah, exactly. We've had a little look at this on the umpire app, the same program that the umpires are using to make the calls, and this one was very, very close. I think Prada did a pretty nice job of getting up towards those 37s, and we did have a 3-knot speed delta on them, but yeah, with the positioning you get a bit of a better idea of it here. Just not quite advanced enough to get a nice.
And just to be clear, this is virtual eye. This is not the umpap.
Yeah.
This is not what the umpires are looking at.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And that leads me on to a question for you, Ian. What are the umpires looking at? Just solely the umpap, or do they have the live footage? How are they making these calls?
They have what we call the umpap, which is it's similar to that virtual eye. It's a 2D viewer which shows the exact positions of the boats with the boundaries. So that's what they're looking at mostly, but they also have all the TV footage, I think 8 different cameras running at any point. And so they can watch all that different footage. They have a scroll wheel so they can immediately go back and look at it a few times if they like. Yeah. So they've certainly got a lot of tools in there to make
onboard comms.
Yes, really good point. They hear there's one umpire assigned to each boat, and that umpire is listening to the comms from on board as well. So they can hear what you're planning to do. So they're ahead of the game in that respect as well.
And this is a genuine question. I don't know the answer. In fact, I don't know an answer to a lot of the questions. But do they have a time limit on how long they have to answer the protest question or not? Can they take as long as they want to? Let's take that pre-start incident with us, and could they have awarded Prada a penalty, let's say 1 minute after the start gun had gone?
They can. It would be unusual for it to go on that long. But certainly, if they need that long to decide, then in my view, they should take that long.
Yeah. But as we kept saying, and as Ben said in the press conference, it's the umpire's decision that matters.
Yep.
And we were 2 protests in, and there were 2 green flags. Got to the top mark, went downwind at a great rate of knots, and then came on to the second upwind. So leg 3 of 8, and this time we're on port tack, heading out towards the right-hand boundary, Giles.
Yeah.
And here we go again.
Yeah, same again.
Yeah, same again.
Same again, different tack.
Yeah. So Louis, roll the video, and we'll talk through this one.
Yeah. So I think this one was a lot closer than the one we just looked at. There was the overlap was pretty solidly established.
Unreal footage, just quietly.
Yeah,
That's
really
absolutely wicked. I love that. Sorry, Giles, carry on.
Yeah, so came in, nice overlap, and then at the beginning of this footage, you just saw a little moment where we got a little leeward heeled.
Right.
And when you get leeward heeled, you begin to lose grip on that rudder.
Right.
So Dylan would have been a little bit nervous at that point about getting too close to Prada inside, because if that rudder goes, it's an immediate out of control turn up.
Yeah, okay.
So that's probably why there was a few little alterations of course there.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll replay this one again, and you can show us exactly the moment that you saw that leeward heel.
But you can see here, like the overlap's nicely established, closing gauge on them.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, just that little moment where you see the really skinny bit of the rudder.
Man, it's fine margins, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is.
And they've taken a load of risk in this race, Luna Rossa. There's 3 we've seen. I think there's one more where they took quite a bit of risk. In fact, the dial down at the start. But they got away with it. Good for them. They got a win on the board.
They did get a win on the board.
But we could easily be sitting here 4-1, couldn't we? And we're 2-2, and we're in it.
3-1.
Well, after this one, but I'm thinking about yesterday as well. Sorry.
Oh, dopey! Cool, blimey! You really are playing Philosopher's Stone stuff here. Well, yeah. I mean, that's sport, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And maybe they had a bit of a switch up in their approach to today after their main issue, like sailing around on their M1.
And credit where credit's due. I mean, that is unsettling. That is, as a sailor, if you go and give up a point in a Louis Vuitton Cup final like that, easily like that, that's unsettling. It'd really annoy you. So full credit to them, bouncing back. I'm not going to give them too much credit because we're going to race them tomorrow. But
game on tomorrow, and hopefully it's not the same.
But hang on a minute. If I was to do that and cover up my Ineos Britannia logo, holy moly, what a race!
Yeah, it was.
Seriously, man.
Yeah.
This sport is in such a cool place. And then I'll do this and go, I'm frustrated that we lost, and we obviously are. So 2-2 on the scoreboard. Giles, looking ahead to tomorrow.
Yeah.
What we got, bud?
Well, we're off the back of now with I suppose taking the loss in the race that went today and having the time out yesterday. I'd say we're in a positively frustrated position, which I think is no bad place to be. I think we feel like the yacht's in a good place. We're kind of reasonably well organised in our approach and how we want to attack those pre-starts in the races. It's game on. Hopefully we can come out swinging, get 2 wins on the board.
And Ian, well, you both are going to be heavily involved tomorrow morning in briefing and just give our viewers at home, like, what will be your message to Ben and Dylan and the Afterglow group after a proper ding-dong today?
I think it's don't focus on the decisions the umpires made. Let's focus on the decisions we can make to improve our result, because it's so easy to get, really, like we have here, got really into the details of the umpire situations.
Easier said than done.
They're done. They're out the back. That's all history. We've just got to move on and really focus on what we can do better.
Yeah. And talking of sort of moving on, we'll move on to our questions. Our first question here is from Simon Ling. Now, I believe Simon is one of our most enthusiastic supporters who sets up every day in between us and the America's Cup experience, which is the fantastic museum-y thing right next door to us. If you're in Barcelona, check it out. It's very cool. And he's a great man, and we appreciate your support. And Simon says, how does delays affect the cyclors, and how do they stay ready to race and fueled? Now, actually, Georgie Ainsley asked me this in the hospitality earlier. It's really easy. I find it really easy for us cyclors, because all you afterguard types have to stay super dialed into the weather. You're kind of looking at data in between races. You're all geeking out on various stuff. What us cyclors do is we take our helmets off. We go, so no one can hear us talking, just quietly. Go to the other side of the yacht and have a bit of a chin wag for a couple of hours. We don't really talk about sailing. You completely remove your mind from the fact you're in a high performance, high pressure environment and chill out. And then the jib goes up. When the jib goes up, 10 minutes before the start, you're on. So you bang in a beta fuel, which gives you a good caffeine boost. And then you go and pedal like Billy O. Simple souls, aren't we, Giles?
Incredibly, yeah. Every now and then I turn your cyclor loop.
Do you enjoy it?
I last about 3 minutes and then turn it back off again.
But do you laugh?
Cringe.
Really?
No, you're right.
He loves it. He does love it.
Yeah, he's on for more than 3 minutes.
He's on for more. He's at least 4.
Yeah.
Here's a couple of funnies from Fred and goes, that guy, hilarious. Yeah. Simon Leeson, question from Simon Leeson. Very impressive.
Nick Leeson.
Oh yeah, Nick Leeson. Very well done.
Sorry.
You passed your reading test there, son. Very impressive cool heads on the water. Are the umpires required to clarify their judgment? That's a good question. So will they come out and say, this is why we made this decision?
They're not required to, but they will. And I've already spoken to Richard Slater immediately after the incident. The incidents, I've spoken to him, get his first reaction, but they're also having a debrief about whether they are happy with the decisions or not, or whether they would have done something different. And I'll also be seeing him tomorrow to go through that debrief that they've had and give them some of our feedback and get feedback from them.
They're always very open to conversations about situations. They want to learn as much as we do.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I'm a huge football fan, and as a football fan, you are like, the referees, really angry, because that's how us British are with football. But it's a mutual respect world, Giles, in this, isn't it? Like, I can tell that some of our supporters are frustrated, but that's not our vibe.
But we, in the heat of the moment, so are we, right?
Yeah, true.
As you said, it's still sport, but again, as we've said, it's a decision that's done. We've got to learn from it, guide the umpires where they need to be guided in terms of the capabilities of the yacht. They need to give us feedback as to the yes and no's of the rule. Yeah. And move forward.
I guarantee you, Luna Rossa think they were great calls.
Yeah, which is absolutely fine. Yeah. And do you know what? Like, the Luna Rossa fans, I love their energy on socials and Facebook. They're forever trolling us on our social media, which I think is brilliant. And I expect there to be a lot of comments on the YouTube video, a lot of Forza Luna Rossas and Italian flags, which I'm all for. Bring it on. Right, a question here from Matthew Alexander. He said, interesting to hear Ben say post-race that we might have been better off leaving them alone and sailing our own race. Giles, just a comment on kind of that risk-reward, he says, on going for penalties.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I think it rolls back to the issue at the beginning of the day with them having to jump onto their M1. It put us at a bit of an advantage on the upwinds. I think you could see in the data that we had a little click on them in the upwinds in all-out performance. Not a lot, but a little bit. And maybe it could have been a bit different if we'd have held off a little bit, not gone quite so aggressive. So a bit of a balancing act there.
And we're gonna set. This is our final question from Brendan Lynch.
Really good one.
Well, read it out and answer it, bud.
All right, question 4, final from Brendan Lynch. Can you clarify what defines port starboard tack angle to the wind? Tack angle to the wind, or the side the sail sets on in AC75s. I had always been told it was the side the sail sets on, which is a really good point because it is, for the majority of racing, it's which side the sail sets on. But we have a slightly different set of rules here, which define it by by the wind direction, essentially, in the umpire app. Right. Uses a wind direction, uses the heading of the boat, and that defines which tack you're on. So you don't have to get the sails over, you just have to turn the boat through the eye of the wind, either up or down.
Which is interesting, considering we were all talking about the mainsail jibing earlier, this and that, if they're looking at wind angles.
Yeah, and the mainsail on the virtual eye that we saw jibes as we go through the wind. The mainsail on the yacht jibes quite a bit later.
Got that, Giles?
Yeah, I do.
So, I think today, we're saying this a lot at the moment, but that was an unbelievable race. It was an unbelievable couple of days in terms of drama, with being at the bottom end, being at the top end, seeing what these AC75s can do in those conditions. We're 2-2. Let's remind you, it's the 1st to 7. So both teams from this point need to win 5 races. We are racing tomorrow. We've got 2 races tomorrow in Garby-ish conditions again, maybe slightly lighter than today, Giles.
Yeah, 9 to 16 knots we're expecting tomorrow. So hopefully that's a nice sweet spot for no delays.
Yes.
2:10 on the dot.
Yeah, that would be nice, eh?
Yeah.
And then we are racing again on Tuesday. Tomorrow's a reserve day that we're using up for not racing yesterday. We're racing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, got you there. And then Tuesday is an official race day.
Yes.
And we'll be doing 2 races there.
Yes.
And then, now, because we're tied on 2-2, we will be racing on Wednesday. I'm telling you, I'm not asking you.
That's correct,
yeah. So, I have to keep it under control. So, Tuesday is another Garby day, Giles, we think.
Yeah, so we're having plenty of breeze for this finals, which is a little bit, I suppose, statistically unexpected.
Correct.
But yeah, it's all good. The yachts are ripping and we're ready for it.
I think that's a good place to end it on. I think you're witnessing one of the best Challenger Series finals we've seen. This is unbelievable yachting, and you are lined up for at least 3 more days of it in good breeze. Hopefully, Giles Scott has said no delays tomorrow, so we're going to hold him to that. I hope you enjoyed today almost as much as we did. We would have liked to have got 2 wins on the board, but we saw a cracking race, and we hope you enjoyed it. And join us tomorrow when we debrief 2 races, races 5 and 6 in the Louis Vuitton Cup. Join us then.